Welcome to Channel's Business Globe with me, Juliana Olayinka, reporting from just outside the Palace of Westminster in central London. Coming up on today's show, Washington's rhetoric on Nigeria intensifies as President Trump threatens military action over claims of a Christian genocide. We unpack the facts, the politics and President Tinubu's response. And here in the UK, rail security comes under renewed scrutiny after the Huntington stabbings. The government calls incidents like this rare, but newly released data paints a more troubling trend. Then later, we sit down with senior leaders from the British-Nigeria Law Forum ahead of their annual gala, discussing the future of UK-Nigeria legal collaboration and the skills young lawyers need to thrive globally. But first, we begin in Washington, where President Donald Trump's comments on Nigeria have sparked diplomatic concern and public debate. The US president has threatened guns-a-blazing military action and a halt to aid unless Nigeria, in his words, does more to protect Christians. His remarks follow lobbying from conservative and evangelical groups in the United States who claim Christians are being systemically targeted in Nigeria. But security researchers, diplomats and conflict analysts say the picture is far more complex. Nigeria's violence cuts across region, ethnicity and geography, with jihadist attacks in the northeast, banditry across the northwest and long-running resource conflicts in the Middle Belt affecting both Christians and Muslims. President Tinubu has rejected what he calls a mischaracterisation of Nigeria and stressed that religious tolerance remains critical to the country's identity. Analysts warn that inflamed rhetoric from the US risks deepening misunderstanding and could complicate security cooperation at a sensitive time for Nigeria's counter-terrorism efforts. The story continues to develop, and for Nigerians watching at home, the moment underlines the importance of shaping our own narrative on the global stage. Now to the United Kingdom, where rail safety is in sharp focus after the Huntington train stabbing, which left 11 people injured. The attack, while rare, comes as new data shows assaults on the rail network have more than tripled in the last decade, rising from just over 3,000 cases to more than 10,000. The data shows that in some places knife incidents are still falling, and the UK government describes trains as one of the safest forms of transport, but ministers acknowledge that public concern is rising, especially as data shows only around 4 in 10 passengers feel safe on public transport. The Transport Secretary says the government will review all security arrangements, though airport-style scannings have been ruled out for now in favour of improved policing and technology such as facial recognition trials and upgraded CCTV. For many international travellers, including thousands of Nigerians who study, work and visit here, the debate speaks to a bigger issue: how open cities balance security with accessibility. Chancellor Rachel Reeves has delivered a key pre-budget speech laying the ground for difficult fiscal choices ahead. She set out 3 priorities: cutting NHS waiting lists, reducing the national debt and improving the cost of living. Reeves warned that weak productivity and global uncertainty, including US trade tensions, mean Britain must take what she called tough but fair decisions, signalling that tax rises are likely to play a part in stabilising public finances. She insisted there will be no return to austerity and pledged that any revenue increases will support investment in growth, skills and innovation. Many in the city and business communities say the success of her plans will depend on credibility, clarity and investor confidence, themes that resonate across all major economies navigating high debt and changing global trade conditions. Well, to unpack this further, I was earlier joined by our Downing Street correspondent Simon Pusey. Simon, so towards the end of the month, we're expecting the Chancellor of the Exchequer to release her budget, but on Tuesday morning, she surprised quite a few people by delivering a pre-budget statement, and now everybody is suggesting that we're going to see tax rises. Talk to me about what she was trying to say.
Yeah, so I think this is part of a campaign over the last few weeks and months, really, to set the groundwork for her to go against her manifesto, the manifesto that Labour came in on, which was that they were not going to raise taxes beyond that initial budget that got so much criticism a couple of months ago. They were saying in this Parliament there'll be no more tax rises, and I think they've got to a stage now where they realise they have to raise taxes. And so she's given this speech. Actually, a couple of weeks ago, she came out and said that Brexit was back, and Brexit had caused more problems. The ODR, the Office for Budget Responsibility, had come out and said that trade was massively down, more so than was thought, because of Brexit.
Yeah.
And she said there was going to be this black hole as a result of Brexit. She got a lot of criticism for that, because people are saying, well, we've known that for a long time, even though people haven't been talking about it. We've known it for a long time. You've got to come up with some positive answers. You've got to come up with a plan.
Be creative.
So this, I think, was her trying to shift it in other directions other than Brexit. So she's talking about
the Conservatives.
Well, she still is. She's still talking about the Liz Truss budget. She's saying, and I think borrowing costs did rise for the UK as a result of that, but they've risen far faster. And she's talking about other global issues. For their part, Kemi Badenoch has called her speech a waffle bomb, a laundry list of excuses. The Lib Dems are saying it's going to be a terrible budget. So I think this is her sort of laying the groundwork for, and some people are talking about the first income tax rise in 50 years, which would be extraordinary. No chancellor's done that for half a century. But that some taxes are going to rise, we know this because
she said that we've got to all pay our fair bit, which was a hint, right?
The problem is when the Cameron Osborne era, they did that. They did together, we'll do this all together and stuff. But they did that from the start. They came in and they said, look, we've been left this terrible deal by Labour, the 2008 crash. We're going to have to do austerity. And that was kind of the narrative they set. The problem with Labour, I think, and Rachel Reeves is, they came in and they said, this is the final tax rises we're going to make. That VAT rise, which was so unpopular, that's the last thing we're going to do. And we're going to stick to our financial rules. And we're going to, we're not going to slow down spending, and we're not going to increase taxes. And she just left herself with no wriggle room. And now things have turned out the way they have. I'm sure Brexit has played a part. I'm sure other global, conditions have exactly. But she just left herself with no wriggle room. So now she's going to go back on that thing, and the narrative is just all over the shop. Now coming out and saying, oh, Brexit's actually worse. There just is no kind of obvious plan for financing the government, and that I think leaves the Tories actually with an opportunity there, because the fiscally responsible party for so long, apart from a little blip with Liz Truss, they can come in and say you can't trust the Labour Party, and reform obviously are completely untried and tested when it comes to the economy. So I think this gives maybe the Conservatives a little bit of a chance to leap on what looks like it's going to be a pretty tough budget.
Away from the economics, what about the politics? Can she survive? Is there harmony, unity between number 11 and number 10, as we had seen in the past, but apparently there's a bit of friction?
I mean, it's so hard to know, isn't it? And this Labour government have been terrible at keeping, number 10, specifically number 10 Downing Street, and the inner workings of that. There seems to be so much infighting, briefing against each other.
Yes.
We've just seen the Labour deputy leader.
That's right.
That was pretty messy in terms of that campaign.
Long drawn out campaign.
I think at the moment they're doing pretty badly in the polls. Really, Keir Starmer's only had international stuff to be able to hold on to go abroad and to look good with Trump and to have Trump saying nice things about him. Sort of domestically back home, he's really got nothing going too well for him. Occasionally things, with the fastest growing economy in the G7, the G7 country, the second fastest growing.
After
Spain. So there's a few things like that are like little hints, little good sort of things, but just the way the narrative and the kind of like story that they're telling, the Labour government, now with this budget coming up, I think it's going to be pretty bleak for them. I think she'll probably cling on, but I think she'll probably go down with what looks like it's going to be a sinking ship.
Gosh, tough words there. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you.
Now we turn to one of the most important fixtures in the UK-Nigeria professional calendar. This year, the British-Nigeria Law Forum marks almost 25 years of strengthening legal and commercial ties between the two countries, a period that has seen Nigerian lawyers rise to senior positions across global law firms, the UK court system embrace more international perspectives, and cross-border transactions between both nations deepen. As global commerce evolves from AI-driven compliance to digital assets, arbitration and cross-border capital flows, the legal profession is being reshaped in real time. For Nigeria and the UK, ensuring lawyers are internationally fluent, technologically confident and commercially prepared is now central to maintaining competitive advantage. Ahead of the BNLF's annual gala dinner here in London, the forum's leadership has been reflecting on what this milestone represents, not only for the profession, but for the wider UK-Nigeria relationship and for the next generation of legal talent. Genevieve and Timothy, thank you so much for joining me here on College Green in Westminster. Genevieve, I can't believe it's going to be almost 25 years since BNLF has come into existence. What does this milestone represent for the bilateral legal and business relationship between the UK and Nigeria, do you think?
Oh, really, really good question. I think 25 years of building bridges, connecting legal minds, fostering trust, deepening commercial and institutional ties between both countries. I mean, when we started, it was about nearly 25 years ago, a small professional network, but I'm so proud that we've grown into a formidable partnership that not only drives policy dialogues, but promotes cross-border work, legal education between both the UK and Nigeria.
I think a lot of people would quite naively assume that it's Nigerian lawyers who benefit from the British legal system, but I presume it's both ways, or even more the other way.
Absolutely, it's both ways. It's been 25 years of collaboration between both countries in the areas of trade, innovation, partnership. We're seeing lots of work in lots of collaboration between both jurisdictions in project finance work, in arbitration. So I think not the misconception that people have, but really it's benefiting both countries.
Absolutely. Timothy, I know that you're leading education and of course the annual gala, which we'll talk about.
Yeah.
that's what we're here to discuss, the food and the drink. But what core competencies does a modern cross-border lawyer need, and how is BNLF building that pipeline?
So I think that there are many core competencies that a modern cross-border lawyer needs, but just to narrow it down to a couple, I would say firstly, lateral thinking is really important.
What does that mean for our viewers who are not as smart as you, Timothy?
So being able to think creatively, being able to think outside the box, it's really important because as a cross-border lawyer, by definition, the matters and issues that you're dealing with are not just going to be local to you. And so that ability to think creatively, to have a creative mind when it comes to problem solving is really crucial. And sometimes even that creative thinking means that when you're working on a matter, you realize that actually what you need is local expertise from another jurisdiction. So, for example, an investigations firm or another law firm that can partner with you on this. And so I think, as I said, lateral thinking is really important. I think also understanding cultural nuances and being able to navigate that effectively is also extremely important.
Does it benefit you? We mentioned off air that you just came back from Nigeria. Do you feel like it's a benefit having that, dual nationality, being able to tap into that mindset?
Absolutely. So in fact, I am part Igbo, part Yoruba, part Hausa.
Oh wow!
And so I have a lot of
total representation.
So I have a lot of Nigerian.
Wow.
And even sort of having an Igbo side of the family, Yoruba side of the family. Culturally, they are different. The things that they hold to be important are different, and so being able to navigate that even from a familiar perspective is really important. Then when you take it to the sort of legal space, I think understanding cultural nuances, even in the country like Nigeria, we have over 100 different tribes, and so being able to navigate that, being sensitive to that and navigate it effectively, I think is another core competency that's needed. And also I think building networks as well,
Coming up on Channel's Business Global, I'll be sharing more from my interview with the senior leadership at the British Nigeria Law Forum, and I'll be looking back at some of the biggest business news stories of the week. All of this after the break. Do stay with us. Welcome back to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, reporting from just outside the Palace of Westminster in central London. Shortly, we will return to my discussion with the British Nigeria Law Forum, but until then, here's a breakdown of some of the biggest business news stories of the week. Tesla's European slowdown deepened in October, with deliveries plunging across key Nordic markets. New data shows registrations fell 89% in Sweden, 88% in Denmark, and 50% in Norway, where almost all new vehicles sold are electric. Analysts say Tesla's aging model lineup and intense competition from Chinese EV brands, including BYD and XPeng, are eroding its dominance. The automaker did record a small improvement in France, with sales up around 2.4%, slightly below overall market growth. Industry analysts say Tesla's challenge now is not demand for electric cars, but maintaining relevance as rivals roll out cheaper and more diverse models in Europe's fast-maturing EV markets. ExxonMobil has warned it could pull out of Europe unless the EU waters down a cornerstone sustainability law. CEO Darren Woods told Reuters the bloc's corporate sustainability due diligence directive would make doing business impossible, arguing the rules, which require climate plans aligned with the Paris Agreement, amount to regulatory overreach. The legislation could impose fines of up to 5% of global revenue on firms that fail to monitor environmental and human rights risks across their supply chains. Qatar has issued a similar threat, saying Europe risks jeopardizing long-term gas supplies if the rule goes ahead. European negotiators are still refining the legislation, but energy producers warn that if passed in its current form, investment and supply security could be at risk. BP has reported better than expected earnings as higher oil and gas production offset weaker trading performance. The energy major posted $2.21 billion in underlying profit ahead of analyst estimates and confirmed $750 million in quarterly share buybacks. The company also raised its asset sale target, saying it now expects to generate over $4 billion in divestment proceeds this year. The results mark early progress in CEO Mari Archinolis's turnaround strategy, focused on cutting costs, increasing hydrocarbon output, and restoring investor confidence after years of underperformance. Now, before the break, we began our conversation with the leadership of the British Nigeria Law Forum as they mark almost 25 years of strengthening UK-Nigeria legal ties. Let's return to that discussion now. Where are you seeing the biggest demand for UK-Nigeria legal collaboration today, 2025?
Interesting. Oh, interesting. I think there's a lot of focus, and I'd probably say three areas. Digital sort of regulation, obviously we're in the space of AI, aren't we, and emerging technologies, governance, and also compliance. So as the investment flows into the country and companies expand beyond borders, what we're seeing is a shared desire for shared standards, for instance in data protection, in fintech, in dispute resolution. Investors want to have confidence in the system and the country they're going into.
Do they have confidence in Nigeria's system?
I think it's improving. I think there's definitely progress. Like for instance, we're seeing a lot of increase in capital markets work, in project infrastructure work, with investors, foreign investors coming into Nigeria. So I think what this is saying is that actually we need to, and this is where the BNLF comes in, actually being that pivotal connecting organisation that brings exactly that bridge that brings together not just investors but regulators, but brings together industry leaders to build that sustainable framework for doing business. So definitely I think things are improving, and with emerging technologies I think the sky's the limit for us. Yeah.
Timothy, you've got your gala coming up in a couple of weeks, but let's go back if we can to the summit in Lagos, which was hugely successful. We're showing some of those images now from that quite big event. What was one standout outcome that will shape your work, the work that you do at BNLF going into 2026?
I think so. So the Lagos Summit, which was led by Genevieve, who's obviously our vice chair of BNLF, and also Kashmir Logan, who's our chair, was a groundbreaking event. It was the first time we had ever done that. And so when I think about 2026, I think we want to break even more new ground. And so it's about forging closer ties, which is what the Lagos Summit was designed to do between members, lawyers, policymakers in Nigeria and also United Kingdom. So looking ahead to 2026, I think that's what we're really focused on doing. So ensuring that our events, whether that be another Lagos Summit, our careers events, networking events, are really working to ensure that we build those closer ties for mutual exchange from an educational standpoint, business standpoint, and just more networking.
Genevieve, do you want to add to that? Because I know you're overseeing that.
Yeah, I think definitely it was, as Timothy said, it was a groundbreaking event. It was the first time we've done something of that scale and nature in Nigeria. Obviously, we've been in Nigeria for nearly 25 years, but of that scale. I think for me, the standout moment was we started off with the British High Commission. So the recognition as BNLF as a formidable network there. That bridges, exactly, it's a really big deal. That bridges for 25 years, we've brokered that collaboration, you know, from a legal perspective, bringing together, again, as I said, investors, you know, policymakers, to just create that partnership and create real commercial opportunities. That's what the BNLF is about.
Let's talk about this year's gala. We're all looking forward to it. I always feel as if the BNLF, the gala at the BNLF in the UK is the beginning of party season.
It is. It is. So absolutely, as you said, I think for us it's our flagship event.
Yeah.
It's a way of winding down, celebrating the successes we've had in the year. So there will be, and I'm sure Timothy is planning that, has so much up his sleeve, but there'll definitely be celebration, recognition of trailblazers, and also inspirational speeches and awards to inspire the next generation of lawyers. So not just about the experienced professionals, but looking ahead to the future.
It's quite a classy do, I must say. It's a very classy do. You've got some big names. Who are some of the big names who are going to be there this year?
Oh my goodness! Do you want to spill that beans now, or okay, right? Okay.
For those who are not on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Indeed. So we have 3 members of Parliament who get to be there. So the governor's trained envoy to Nigeria, Florence Eshilomi MP, will be there.
She's been doing amazing.
Absolutely.
Kate Osimo MP will be there.
Wow.
Helen Grant MP will be there. We have
some of Nigerians' biggest names.
Indeed. So we have the chief executive of First Bank UK Nigeria. He will be there as well. Mr. Odunowo. We have Duxi Abiola of Dragon's Den fame and Intern Avenue. We have people from the Africa Centre, so people from policy.
Gosh, the ticket's still available. This sounds like it's exciting.
So
they're going really fast, aren't they?
It's going to be a wonderful event.
It is going to be a wonderful event. Most importantly, I know that you really do nurture young lawyers. You've got millions of viewers watching, lots of young lawyers, I'm sure, watching from their homes across Nigeria. What sort of message would you give them, Genevieve, to aspire them for building a transnational legal career?
It's really interesting because we covered this topic extensively at the Lagos Summit. There was this debate over, do you qualify globally versus local talent? I think what I'll say is nurture your local excellence wherever you are, be it the UK or Nigeria. I think once
charity
you're
starts at home.
Exactly. Once you're excellent at what you do locally, you have the ability to scale globally and transnationally. So I think be a master and, you know, be good at what you do first.
And finally, Timothy, I know you oversee education as well. BNLF is a membership network. How do people become members?
Oh, well, the easiest way is to go to our website. So just Google British Nigeria Law Forum, and there's a section where you can sign up to become a member. We run many events throughout the year, so education events, networking events, career events, and as you know, Genevieve said, we are really looking to build for the future, and we're building for now, but we're also building for the future. We have a junior lawyers division for aspiring lawyers and junior lawyers. They actually held an event last week for talking about sort of qualification and life as a lawyer in Nigeria and also in the UK. And so that's the easiest way to join. And there's lots to look forward to 2026.
Yes, I'll see you in a couple of weeks at the gala.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, sadly, that's all we have time for today. But as always, do get in touch with your comments and suggestions. I'll see you at the same time next week for more in-depth business analysis on Channels Business Global. Goodbye.